And welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. I'm your host, the Whiteologist, Mr. Blows Your Minds, and this is Black Minds News. Black Minds News is to report, articulate, transmit, communicate, insinuate, develop, investigate, unveil, decode, spread the news, whether it's by news, video, website, or quotes from publication. As I articulate this information, I ask that the creator of the universe be here, heart, soul, mind, and spirit, because why? The truth don't need no partner. As a descendant of the greatest people who created this place that we call the United States, we, the foundation of Black Americans, the bloodline historical lineage, the historical people known as slaves, we who call ourselves BADOS, Black American descendant of slaves. Some say Black African descendant of slaves. Others say ADOS, American descendant of slaves. We, the today children, offspring, and present generation, we give honor to our ancestors. And you know what the motto of the show is? I'm never going to tell you what I heard. I'm only going to tell you what I know. Today's date is September 3rd, 2019. Did you hear? We're going to go over to Atlanta, Fulton County, where a case had been resolved about an incident that took place back in 2016, where, again, young black man doing some mischievous things. We don't condone wrong and violence, but we understand as being black men here in the United States that there's such a thing as a rites of passage that one goes through in any ethnicity of people. The inquisitiveness, the trying to find and seek oneself. So sometimes you do things that just seem that when you're older, when you look back in hindsight, you say, why are you doing stupid shit like that? But, you know, that's just part of growing up. We all do it. Again, they said, he who can cast the first stone, which means that means nobody can pick up a rock and throw it, right? Even though you'll never find it in the Bible, but they did used to put that in the movie, right? So anyway, so we have a young man who, again, they used to call it, once upon a time, joyriding. Man, that those who've been around with it, joyriding. Which means that, again, if it's your vehicle, you sure don't want nobody joyriding your shit. You ain't getting no permission to. No, again, because of this video games and stuff like I hear Grand Theft Auto, no, you know, they teaching them. You know, it's kind of like, again, a pilot don't fly a plane, right? They have a simulator. So, again, video games is kind of simulating how to rob, steal, kill on the video game. And so a lot of them already have the ability and they're pretty good at it, so they say they want to put it into real time. Well, individual named Antravius Payne decided to do this, ran up across the wrong ones, and we about to tell you what all took place. And again, this here is the most hated show on the black corner of YouTube, and stay tuned for this broadcast. Hey, how's y'all doing? Once again, this is Black Minds News, and I'm your host, Mr. Blows Your Mind, and welcome to another Black Minds News report. First and foremost, I want to say what's good to my fam, old and new. Time is dawning, days away, hours away, getting back to what we used to be. So I want to thank each and every one for you who do take your time to come out and click on the video. It's all good. Passerbys, if you should happen to pass by, your GPS on your search engine somehow allowed you to come the wrong way and came across the thumbnail and the title and it enticed you to click. Welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. Why you say that, Mr. Budman? Well, we used to get 250,000 views. You know, that's 225,000, but we used to get 275,000 in 2 years, and they cut the video, even though the video had been around for 5 years, they couldn't get no more videos on it, or no more showings on it, right? Then we made videos that made 50,000, 30,000, 20,000. We made videos like that, but some odd reason, somehow we came into 2019, and I had a couple of videos. I got one video that went 300, but had another one 1,000, and once it got 1,000, it just seemed like it just fell off the cliff. Watching Price is Right when the little man fall off the cliff. You know, anybody remember that? Right. But anyway, well, that's what happened with the video. So again, been in business for 7 years, have 2.9 thousand subscribers, and somehow we can't seem to get past a certain threshold. So you tell me if I'm not the most hated show on the black corner internet. Anyway, go down an aisle. We always got a grand opening. Go down, see something, might something like. If you're shopping to see something that make you feel some kind of way, remember that this model of the show is the truth. Don't need no partner. Now let's get into today's article. Now again, as I was telling you in the intro there, that again, you know, the rites of passage as a black man in this land, and that could be any, but again, that's different variants, again, according to your economical structure and foundation from where you come from. When you got certain things, you don't do certain things. When you ain't got certain things and you're always in need, well, you're always doing little things again. Only you rationalize. Again, you know, they said the youth is the vigor, or life is wasted on the youth. Because they said you got all the vigor, life, but you do a lot of stupid things. It take you to go through a whole lot to learn to get to a certain age that you get like the Mr. Blows Your Mind, get to cut back, and then now you get to tell the stories for what a TI is, right? You have to live to get there, right? In these days, you see a lot of people putting that Boston gray, trying to cover up their gray. They don't want to be gray looking because they don't, again, understand that's the badge of honor of life once you get to a certain area. But anyway, you know, this society we live on makes everything that older is worse and everything young. But yeah, when you're young, you do a lot of stupid things. So here's a story here. I'm going to take you back to a day back in 2016 when this took place, when the young man did what he did. So let me go ahead and read this to you, and we'll be right back after that. Former Atlanta officer sentenced to 20 years for kicking unarmed teen in the head. You know I'm going to say that again. Former Atlanta officer sentenced to 20 years for kicking unarmed teen in the head. This story is coming out of Atlanta, Georgia, August the 27th, 2019. And this is how it reads. Former Atlanta police officer Matthew Johns was sentenced to 20 years to serve 5 in Fulton County Court on Monday. John previously pleaded guilty to assaulting an unarmed teen during a traffic stop in 2016. Johns has been with the Atlanta Police Department for 9 years when he was seen on dash camera and body camera video kicking then 15-year-old Antravius Payne on September 16, 2016. Prosecutors with the Fulton District Attorney's Office said that Payne was riding in a stolen car when several officers pulled the driver over. Prosecutors say that Payne surrendered to authorities by lying on his stomach on the pavement with his arms outstretched, showing he did not have a weapon. The teen was hospitalized with bleeding in his mouth, cuts, a neck strain, and a concussion. CBS 46 reporter Brittany Etney was in the court during the sentencing. Read her tweets below. Sentencing about to begin for former Atlanta police officer Matthew Johns, who pleaded guilty to assaulting an unarmed teen during a 2016 traffic stop. Backstory reminder on Facebook. She comes later again. She gives an update. Dr. David Anthony, a psychologist who worked primarily with PTSD trauma patients, is on the stand. He says he gave Matthew John a psychological examination as he looked at any trauma John had through his life, PD and military experience. Also says drug screening was clean. She continues. Anthony says John's combat exposure during 2 deployments, one which he witnessed one of his friends blown up, is part of the trauma Matthew Johns has experienced. Anthony says he diagnosed John with complex PTSD and major depressive disorder. Prosecutor Clint Rucker is now asking Anthony about John's evaluation. Just because you suffer a traumatic event, does that mean you get PTSD? The answer, no. Did Johns tell you that he suffered from PTSD? Answer, no. Then why did John lie on his work report? Rucker wants to know where the treatment was that day when the victim was laying down on the ground and John was kicking the teen in the head. Anthony says John may have thought fellow officers were threatened as part of PTSD. Answer, it could have been an instinctual response. Ruck just asked about Anthony's military response and said, were you trained to hit people in the head when they were laying on the ground? Answer, Ruck said he doesn't believe John's military experience had anything to do with his actions. Rucker, so you're telling the judge while you can understand why Matthew Johns assaulted the teen, but that doesn't excuse it. Anthony agreed to that. Anthony says John suffered from explosive anger as part of his PTSD. Defense, is it possible that John didn't lie on the Atlanta Police Department work report, but that was his perception? Anthony, there's a chance that he saw it the way that he saw it from his PTSD. Former Atlanta police officer Matthew Johns was sentenced to 20 years to serve 5 today. Paul L. Howard Jr., District Attorney for Fulton County, issued the following statement. While criminal justice systems across this country struggle to investigate, prosecute, and hold police officers accountable, in Fulton County, a law enforcement officer pleaded guilty today. There were no demonstrations or marches by concerned citizens, no chance or any destruction of property. It was not necessary because the criminal justice system did exactly what concerned citizens demand of it: fairness, transparency, and action. The case was investigated by the Fulton County District Attorney Office. No special prosecutor from another jurisdiction was required. The case was indicted by a citizen grand jury from Fulton County and moved forward in the Superior Court bench for final deposition. Once the case was received, the judges did not recuse themselves or appoint a senior judge to handle the matter. Neither did they issue some arbitrary immunity order blocking the state from moving forward. The police officers involved provided dash cam videos which captured the entirety of the incident. Once the officers viewed the tape, they stated their colleagues and fellow officers was wrong and agreed to testify against him. The officers was fired, not placed on administrative leave by his very own police chief, his own peers. Today, he accepted responsibility and entered a guilty plea. Today, the Fulton County criminal justice system worked. John pleaded guilty to all 8 counts in indictment, which included 3 counts of aggravated assault, strangulation, 2 counts of false statements, 2 counts violation of oath by a public officer.
Welcome to Up Late, everyone. I'm Ron Jones.
And I'm Aisha Howard. The video is disturbing and made national headlines. And today, a judge threw the book at a former Atlanta police officer caught on camera attacking an unarmed teen. Investigators say the teen was riding in a stolen car.
Yeah, let's get straight to 11 Alive's Elwin Lopez. She's going to walk us through why it took so long for the sentence to be handed down after the officer pleaded guilty.
Yeah, Ron, Aisha, this sentence comes 3 years after the attack. Matthew Johns' defense attorney was hoping for a different outcome for her client. She claims PTSD was to blame for the former officer's actions on the day he beat an unarmed teen.
Mr. Johns is someone who is in need of help. He is not in need of incarceration. He is in need of some mental health services.
And take a look at this video. It shows Johns running up to Antrevious Payne, stomping on the 15-year-old's head and pressing his knee into Payne's neck. That's what led Johns to this courtroom. Johns' attorney wanted him to get help for his PTSD as part of his sentence. The former IPD officer served 2 tours in Iraq as a Marine before he became a police officer. Johns was since fired and pled guilty to 8 crimes, including aggravated assault. Johns' attorney said today in court her client did indeed go to the VA's office.
He did go, and he didn't follow up, and part of the reason why he didn't follow up is because of the stigma associated with PTSD.
And today, Johns was sentenced to 20 years in jail, but he will have to serve 5 of those. We asked our legal analyst, LaTanya Hines, what might have left to this outcome.
The officer is being held to a higher standard, because when you take that oath of office and when you have that badge, it gives you the authority to be able to use violence in a particular way, and not just, in a irrational way.
And next month, another high-profile case in a police shooting will play out in court. Air Force veteran Anthony Hill was shot and killed in March 2015, more than 4 years ago, by former DeKalb County police officer Robert Olson. Hill wasn't wearing clothes at the time and was unarmed when Olson shot him. Hill's family says the victim was dealing with PTSD at the time. Our legal analyst says it's hard to point out at this time how Olson's fate might compare to that of Johns. Take a listen to what she told me.
So when we have these use of force cases, you have to take them individually for each individual case. The facts are different. The officers, the situation, why they're being called out there can be different.
Olson's trial is set for September 23rd. Ron?
All right.
All right, so we back, right? So you got a chance to see everything that you need to see according to what they have out there. Again, the story goes back to 2016, where a young man named Antrevious Payne did like so many, and again, they would say that it's joyriding, and stole a vehicle and was accosted by police. And after being chased, decided that he was going to stop this chase and surrender and get himself out the vehicle. According to the article, it says that Mr. Payne, then 16 years old or 15 years old, again lays out on the ground, surrenders, hands spread to show I have no weapons, nothing in my hand, and I'm surrendering. And as you've seen in the video clip there, you've seen a police officer who runs up and try to stomp so hard as he was coming with such force, right? I mean, think about it. There was already a police officer already had him on the ground, right? He was already on the ground. And so what you saw was that this individual, ex-officer named now is Matthew John, is the one that ended up being charged with use of force. And let me give you a visual of what they had out there, right? You see a young man, Antrevious Payne, on your right there with the neck brace face, and what you saw in the video, you see there's one cop already got him handcuffed and the other one was on his way. And he was coming with such force that when he tried to stump the first time, he kind of got it, but he missed. He was over, the force of his movement, and he came back and finished it off with two more and threw the knee in there. Now, again, they make it sound like just because he kicked him in the head. It was just the fact that, again, you get, if you play sports, or just in a situation when adrenaline is flowing, some people say, you can't control yourself. My man was already down. The other man was already putting a handcuff on him. But I guess you were so angry about the fact that him driving that, again, sometimes you take the job personal. You can understand that, right? Personal job, take the job personal. You could have injured anybody. Again, we don't know how fast she was going. We don't know, again. And so somebody who take the job personal, again, you really there to serve and protect. And so, again, okay, but maybe you overextended yourself beyond the normal procedure, right? Maybe you could, get it in and not realizing you are being under the all-seeing eye. So that means you have to still be aware about the kind of way you're going to proceed when you're going to get a little physical with the people who you're arresting. So because you got caught under the all-seeing eye and everybody got to see it, and due to Antravius being hospitalized and the severity of the injuries that he had, made you be able to now get charged with, use of force. Now, he had been an officer for 9 years, according to the article. And we see that when they start talking about the officer and trying to come with a defense for him, they use the word PTSD. Now, again, when you have a job, some jobs require you to take drug tests, right? Maybe take some kind of examination, depending on what kind of profession you're in and so forth, right? Why is it that, again, police officers, again, as you heard the lawyer state in the video, that they're held to a higher standard? So that means that the vetting process should have a higher standard than most, because, again, you're dealing with people. Not so much just dealing with people in the public, but you have situations that you have to evaluate uncalculable time to assess a situation and have to have the right cognites to be able to make and discern. Now, a lot of people like to give the officers the kickstand by saying because of the stress and the duress of the job and so forth, that, some mistakes are bound to happen. And again, of course, there's going to be an area. There's certain situations people can evaluate and look at and be like, okay, we get it, right? Like I said, when you got the car after, driving all that fast, we don't know how long it was, you were still pumped up. When you got the car, you were still jacked up. So just trying to get to them, but you just, but it was too, you're doing too much, right? You're doing too much. And so with that being said, all CNI is catching it. The public now gets a chance to go back in time machine and go back to the incident, and we get to all sit back and see like a Coliseum, and we get to view what the gladiators done. Now, either put the thumbs up or we're gonna put the thumbs down. Now, in this case here, it was too much. One thing to get him, maybe through a knee as you come down, or whatever. Okay, we'll give you that. You know what I'm saying? Because again, sometimes, only thing that they say that some of us respect is more threat and power than they got, right? So sometimes you can appreciate when you have certain police against certain situations when they go on ahead and they do what they got to do, because you're like, that nigga, he deserved that shit, right? Okay, we get that. But then there's those situations that don't garner all that, because again, we have to say if there was a white boy in that car, and I'm not saying it don't happen, but I'm pretty sure we don't get to see it. And again, I don't know if we were really looking for that, but if that should be what it is, are they being put hospitalized like that? You know what I'm saying? Again, with the plethora of incidents that happened, and again, I heard a young lady just say that I'm race baiting. I'm like, how could I be race baiting when I'm showing you what I'm talking about? Right? It's like saying I'm a racist, but yeah, I'm showing you what I'm talking about. It'd be different if I'm just sitting here talking and didn't have nothing to show you and just was making up these wild out stories and just telling you some things. I was kind of like Colonel McBride. Those who remember watching that, there I was. Back in the day, there was, and I'm just making up all this kind of shit. And you're like, what the hell are you talking about? You have to believe it. You either believe what I'm telling you, or you say, oh, that was a farce there, sir. Right? But I'm showing you what I'm talking about. So how could I be that, what you say? But again, that's your own, insecurities about certain things again. But anyway. So anyway, we see that this take place. And they say, again, they feed into the public, right? Think about when they said that. They said the officer was sentenced to 20 years, right? For kicking unarmed team in the head. It wasn't just the kick, it was the injuries, right? Again, it wasn't just the kick. It was everything that totaled and packaged besides the kick that hospitalized that you could not now, according to what the situation was, it did not balance as to the equalness of the force that was given. And because of that injury, that's what made this what it was. So it's not just the kick in the head. It was the over force of doing it. And so what you see, again, they say he was bleeding from his mouth. That was something internal. When you start bleeding from the mouth, there's something internal bleeding from you. It could be just, lip bust, bit your tongue, right? Or it could be something internal that you coughing up blood, right? He had a neck restraint, meaning that his neck was, damaged to a way that they had to keep it straight. He also had a concussion. Now, again, they talk about concussion in football. They talk about how dangerous concussions are with football players. And here he is in a situation, again, we don't condone what had been done. Now, that's a lesson he got. That's, sometimes, straighten that ass out was a good ass whooping. Again, maybe he'll think twice again because we don't want to go through that again. But again, severity, again, it's like, say, for instance, those who believe in corporal punishment, which is whoopings, right? There's levels to that. You don't just, people, to me, when I be seeing those stories where people who, spank their children and it be all out and the children be dying and they be going to the hospital, you know what I be thinking? You ain't never had your ass whooped before, right? If you had your ass whooped before, you knew that even though that who's administered, whether it be your mom or your daddy or so forth, that there's a levels to that. And you know the difference when somebody is beating you out of hatred and somebody is doing, correctiveness. Now, today's society, that's all an abuse. You can't do that. At least don't let it be found out you're doing it. So there's severities, there's levels to this shit. And so, with that being done, he got his to the severity to the point that the cop has to be now charged with 20 years. But again, you see how slickly they did that. He got 20 years as the print that told you to make it seem like, yeah, 20 years. But no, it took him 3 years to get to the case. Because remember, they were talking about how long this case, why this case taking so goddamn long to get to the end. I mean, how many licks did it take to get to the center of the Tootsie Roll Pop, right? What's going on here? So they get there, throw out the number 20. Then they said, well, he's only going to serve 5. Well, 5, right? So think about that. So they took 3 years of time, which would have been, so 3 and 5 was right there is 8. And then the 5 that you get, he ain't going to probably do all the 5. So you see how they worked that? They threw the word 20, but by the time they done chipped it down, again, like that sister, that one that sent me a message, that was talking about the white dude that got all the leniency in there and try to say that I'm race baiting, then again that those young people did what they did. I'm saying this. We didn't see everything. We don't know what that girl was responding because, again, there was 2 other girls that also complained that the man was pushing them. We didn't see nothing about that. We didn't hear nothing about that. You and your girl jump in because some man jumping on you. Okay, is that all accordingly a part to the situation? Do we separate that? You understand? And then why did the court decide to do what they did? Because if they felt the same way you did, and I already wrote it to you, but I'm going to want you to hear it just in case you listen to it. If the court decided, not about what I said, if the court seen the same way you said, then they shouldn't have gave him nothing. They should have dismissed this case. But there was something there. You understand? And so sometimes people who have this thing about when they hear black folks who sit here and try to advocate for the wrongness, and it's not, again, the one I'm talking about color. We're stuck on color. No, we're not. We only reacting to what you are doing to us. I'm going to say that again. Somebody want to sit here and talk about we stuck on color. No, you introduced that to us. This is your game. This is the game that you created that we play in it on a daily basis more than others. Now, some of you just to feel comfortable about yourself, what you want to do is you want to act as if this don't exist. So you hate somebody like Mr. Blows Your Mind who will keep showing you that this is always happening. Until I can't get it, you can shut me down when ain't no more for it to be seen. Now, does that mean I'm going out seeking for? No, there's just certain things that I look at and I say, wait, hey, man, that's a little, that's a little extreme. I think we need to know this, right? So just imagine, could you imagine that Mr. Blows Your Mind was back in 1800, 1700, 1600 and had YouTube? Could you imagine the stuff if we could report back then? Let me say that again. Let me get that. Let me tell you, for those who be talking about some race baiting. If we could go back and we had this technology and a nigga could be on YouTube in 1600, 1700, 1800. You think what I'm talking about today, what would the stories I be saying then? And you would be saying, oh, you're race baiting, you're hating massa. No, that's something in you. That's just something in you because, again, your affiliation, your association, you're trying to separate. I'm not like them. You don't have to be. You ain't got to do that. You do all that stuff you want. You say all the stuff that you want to say. It ain't changing the game. Because, see, the only people been changing is one, again, who has been administered to. Those who administer somehow want you to take their part too and change for them too. No, this is a two-way street. This ain't unilateral. This is bi. This is two. Both got to do it. Until both sides do it, then guess what? Ain't going to be no change. So you're going to have people like Mr. Blows Your Mind and Black Minds News and other shows that are out here. Because, again, it has to be relayed out here. Regardless of how you feeling about what you want this little black boys and little black girls holding hands and singing, we shall overcome. Yeah, okay. You keep holding on to that while they still doing what they doing. And all the disparity when it comes to racial wealth gap and the disparity between having your jobs and living a certain area. You keep playing that game if you want. You go ahead. You understand? And so we go on with this as you see that this Brittany Etney, she was sitting up in the courtroom and she was giving a play-by-play. Now, the thing was that, again, as I said, you want to use PTSD. So if you got PTSD, and again, I'm talking about evaluating and you probably being a police officer, there's an evaluation examination you must take. And again, once they see these kind of things, again, knowing you coming from the military, right? This was, again, we can see that is their preference because, again, look at how the police have become more militarized. Look at the vehicles. Look at the shit they got on. You know what I'm saying? They look like that. They're police. They're police. Well, again, so what they doing is kind of like Ice Cube's 3-on-3 basketball league. You know what it's been about. I got to go there, right? It's like the 3-on-3 league, right? You got the NBA that got those fresh up out of college, right up out of high school. You know what I'm saying? Brought them in, groomed them up. Then they shine. They got them in their vigor. Now, they still, after they done did they tenure in basketball, right? They done did their tenure, and now they may not be high ticket. And again, when you have a revolving door that every year that you're coming in with fresh new talent, those on the end part of the spectrum of their tenure, well, they know it's gonna be pushed out unless you some of the excellent ones of that group. So now here you is, maybe you only 25, 26, 28, 30. You still got a lot of game left in you, but you just ain't got no place to play. So what happened? Ice Cube makes a 3-on-3 league, and guess what? Now you got somewhere to play. Well, isn't that the same thing like the military? Here you is as a soldier. You did your tenure. You don't do so much, because again, you know what I'm saying? You don't do so much of that shit, because that shit is some real life killing, blowing up, and all kind of espionage, all kind of shit going on in there. So to take the 3-on-3 league would be coming down to what? The police department. Come down to the Cube League. Now, again, do Cube evaluate and do the same thing and be like, wait a minute, there's a certain standard, because again, you're dealing with the citizenry. That's some war shit. This here is some citizenry. So knowing that you're coming from that kind of background, shouldn't it already be, you got PTSD, because you might go out here and just, snap and do all this shit? No? So now we see these currently all the time, and then we trying to assess it. Then when they get in the situation, we hear the word coming out. All right, so let me give you some of the stuff that they're saying, right? So again, like I said, that Brittany Edmonds sitting in there, she said that that Dr. David Anthony, he was a psychologist, right? And he's the one that worked with the PTSD trauma patients, right? Now, he had got on the stand, and he accordingly did an examination on Matthew Johns. And he looked at all of any trauma John had through his life. Now, again, that means that he had already been evaluated. Now, examination and evaluation are damn near the same, right? They damn near the same, right? Evaluating, examination, right? So, okay, so you sat down, calculated to understand. Again, they ain't saying psychological analyst. I ain't nobody saying where your mind is at. We're just asking, and I'm going to tabulate that. But, okay, so anyway. So, he says that John, according to his evaluation examination, that he had combat exposures during his 2 employments. Now, okay? He had 2 employments that he was in his military, in which he said one time in one of his deployment, one of his best friends, or he witnessed one of his friends get blown up. Okay? Now, again, that's a sad story. You don't want to see when your people's a friend, or a loved one, somebody and get blown up. Now, I'm pretty sure that has some effect somewhere to keep re-triggering. You hear things, 4th of July, M80 go off. Okay, you got some flashbacks. I'm going to give you all that. Right? And so that, again, we're seeing that this doctor said he diagnosed John with complex PTSD. He had complex, not the regular shit. You know what I'm saying? Like you get regular and then get extra strength, right? You get Tylenol, regular, extra strength Tylenol. He had extra strength, right? He had the complex. And he said he had major depression disorder. Okay? So, if you know that, okay? Now, did they know that? Is whether that was determined or not. And maybe that had something to do with why they gave him the 20 piece. Okay? Maybe that's the reason why they threw 20 up there, because they say, wait a minute, man, you knew you had all this shit and you applied and you lied, because again, that's what they say in the article talking about. He lied as to not revealing that he had been diagnosed with PTSD and major depressive disorder. Because again, now he come out the military, he need a job. What else he gonna do? You're a trained ass killer. What other job is out there could you really do other than doing some other killing ass shit? Either gonna get in the street doing some shit, or then you can go and get some legalized killing. So they're gonna try to go the legalized way, right? And so that's what he tried to do. So again, he doesn't disclose that. Now again, is it incumbent on him to disclose, and then should there be some kind of net that the police department has to so it can cover itself? Oh, they don't. So now what happens is, what end up happening is that you have these police officers, and situation happen. Sometimes it could be like Antravius here, where you just kind of get hospitalized, or some people could just put 6 feet in the box, right? So it's after the fact. And so then we understand why there was this little thing that everybody kept using about being fearful of their life. Well, I guess if most of them was coming back from military, and all you was doing is in hostile situations, and you had these deployments where it was a lot of killing. So yeah, I guess you would be, fearful, like, because that's the way you've been kind of for the last how many years, right? So we give you the PTSD, but my thing is, where is the net to catch you to getting into the system? We understand you need a job, and you'll be good at this job. And I said, this situation, we need a motherfucker like you to go in there and get the job done, because people in the community they ain't trying to deal with that. So you need somebody who with an equal force or more force, and a bunch of them to deal with that situation. Okay, that's what I'm saying. We ain't about hating cops. We just saying that sometimes when it's just natural citizens and just fuck shit that young ones do, all right, we understand give them a little taste, but you don't fuck them up like that. You know what I'm saying? You fuck them up for life. So again, you got to hold you to the higher life, because again, the lawyer also said that we hold you to a higher standard, and that's right. You know the law, so you got to be held to the highest extent of it. So she goes on and she says that when you see that the young man, Antravius, was laying on the ground, right? Matter of fact, let me go ahead and change the screen, because you probably, okay, you've seen that enough. Let me go and change the screen up on you. All right, so let me go and give you this instead. How about let me give you this, because you're saying that's too much already. Because, you know what I'm saying, we don't want to be doing that. All right, let's do it. This is who we talking about right here, right? All right, so when he was on the ground and laying down, again, that is in itself is visual, that when a police officer, it's like hands up. You know why they was using that slogan? Hands up, don't shoot? Because hands up means surrender. They told you long back in the day to get a white shirt, or a flag and you wave it and that tells the enemy you surrender. Don't shoot me. I'll give up. I'm your prisoner, right? So laying down, spread eagle, say I sure ain't got nothing, means that, okay, you got me. I'm going to comply. No resisting here. So that don't mean that I'm supposed to be getting all this extra. Now, again, you come to put the cuffs, you fall down with the knee first, boom, okay, just look like, okay, you got one off, right? You know what I'm saying? Make, put the cuffs on a little tight or whatever. Yeah, okay, there's some things you could do within the realm of the game. But when it's excessive and it could be seen like that, then again, that's where your problem fell at. And so it goes on and says that the reason why John was kicking the teen in the head. Now, again, this is the evaluation of the doctor. He says that John may have thought. Now, again, you might be a psychologist, right? And you may have an expertise about what you know. But for you to sit there and say what he thought is no different than me sitting here talking about what I think. It's irrelevant because the only person who really truly know is John, right? Oh, John only one know what it really was, right? And so he says that John kicking him in the head, he may have thought that his fellow officer was threatened as part of PTSD. That was a defense he was trying to use. He said, well, people who had PTSD and based on the trauma and again seeing his friend, they laid the foundation. But remember, his friend got blown up. So here was his fellow officer. Yeah, dude was already on the ground, had him laid out, had the cuffs on him. What you mean? What are you talking about? See, trying to make the square peg fit in the round hole, right? And he said, but it could have been instinct, no response. That's it. Oh, yeah, that instinct. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that I go with. But to think that he was in trouble, that wasn't it. It's instinct because, again, his adrenaline was already pumped when all that chasing. And so, we caught you and that couldn't just been an eye. All right, you lucky you got him first. No, you still in pursuit even after he caught. You couldn't turn your shit off. But again, the reason why you can't turn it off is because, again, you had already diagnosed him with what? See? So he's a ticking time bomb running out there in them damn streets on situations that, again, there's situations where he would be great for, right? There's situation, you don't want a John Matthew or Matthew John running in there because that nigga crazy. We need an extra crazy motherfucker. Stop this nigga, right? But when it's a situation like this, nah, John, turn that shit off. I can't. And once it's on, it's like, old school Lou Ferrigno. Remember, Bill Bixby was like, you won't like me when I'm angry. And the motherfucker turned to the Hulk. He can't turn the shit off. Once he got to get angry shit, he got to go through the process. Well, that was Matthew Johns, right? So, you see that, so again, 20 years. Okay, so, again, they came out afterwards. So that was just basically it. So they tried to use the psychologist basically to try to explain from the psychologist and the psychological part from John. I think John should have got up there on the stand and danced still. But he ain't going to do that shit because what's going to happen. Going to slip on a banana peel in the mouth. His foot going to go in his damn mouth. That ain't going to testify on his own damn self, right? So we see that after the fact that, again, now here they had to do the political correctness to the community. Right? They had to do that because here was a situation you wasn't going to get out of this, John. There's no way we can get you out of this, all right? So what we're going to do is we're going to delay it about for 3 years, and we're going to throw this big-ass number 20 out there, and that's going to be, niggas going to be, oh, shit, 20 years! But in actually, we're only going to get 5, but you're only probably going to be about 2.5. And we're going to get you even up to 2.5. We're still going to get you out even out. We're going to find a way to get you. Don't worry about it. We got our own work that, all right? But we got to sell this shit, John, all right? And then you just go on about your life. You're never going to be able to be a police again unless you go change your name or some other shit. Okay, so you can't do that, right? So after he said that, they went all that whole thing. They say 20, they said 5. And then here was the district attorney of Fulton County, and he came up with a statement. He said, while criminal justice systems across the country struggles to investigate, prosecute, hold police officers accountable, right? In Fulton County, a law enforcement officer pleaded guilty today. See, now they want to take credit. See, look, see? We in Fulton County, when the officers do this, we will prosecute them to the fullest. So you can't say we here in Atlanta, Fulton County, we don't do that. Well, again, it was too obvious. You know what I'm saying? It was a signed, sealed, delivered case. Now the thing was, it never went through the grand jury, right? Kind of like with the Michael Brown went through the grand jury, and somehow that whole thing ended up, just walked up out of there. In this case, you couldn't do it because the evidence was just there. They didn't have no evidence with the Mike Brown. That was the whole thing. Nobody had no video of that. Did you ever know? There was no video, but it was so many people who was out there observing, but nobody seemed to have had the video when the shit was going down. Very strange. Very strange. But anyway, so based on the fact that they had that being there, so guess what? Had no defense. So now they want to take, their hats off that we did a great job. They said there was no demonstrations, no marches concerned. So we made sure that they didn't have it because, again, there was no way he getting out of there. There was no way. So we made the citizens feel. We threw the 20 out there. He knew he's doing some time. So that made they didn't have to get out here and march and do this protest. See, we don't look ugly. We're not getting ourselves. All right. So again, we cut all our corners off, right? And so it goes on talking about the case was investigated by the Fulton County District Attorney. We didn't even go seek nobody for no special prosecutor, right? We kept this right in our own jurisdiction. We handled it and dealt with it with our own. So nobody can say somebody else had to do it for us, right? And so we said that the citizen grand jury was the one that did it, right? And this is it, what it is. So is everybody good? Everybody's good, right? We're good, right? All right. But again, you see how they did it. 3 years it took to get the case done. 5 years gonna give him. He only gonna do maybe half of that, right? So it's all said and done. Okay, he gonna do something, right? It's better than nothing, right? Some people, he did something better than nothing. But again, the people's looking at, hey man, that was too much, man. So again, you got to put something again and put some. Again, it's not trying to restrain cops and trying to make them not do their job. It's just that some situations just don't merit it. And you got to understand that if you don't have the right mindset to be able to do that, then do we need you in the uniform? You understand? Do you need to be in the uniform if you can't make again, you don't know how to pump your brakes? You ever seen somebody when they're driving, it's like one of them streets, and everybody driving 30, 45 miles an hour, and then they come to a red light, and then the person stopped, and then this one motherfucker who wasn't paying attention, and instead of pumping the brakes or slow down, he done ram into the back of it. Well, that's, you know what I'm saying? You can't be just ramming motherfuckers. You got to know how to pump your brakes or slow the fuck down according to evaluating the situation, right? And so that's what it is here. So we see that an Atlanta cop gets 20 years for kicking up teen, but in actuality, he didn't get the 20. That was something, again, they had to do for the public, and we get that, right? We get that, right? And so you tell me what y'all think, right? Tell me what y'all think, right? That's what y'all got to do. Hold on. Hold on. I'm doing this right? I ain't doing it right, dude. Am I doing it right? There we go. Let's do it right. Music, please. Thank you. Music, please. There you go. All right, so you tell me what you seen. Because I cover the stories, but I don't go A to Z. I leave things intentionally that I left for those who watch, who evaluate, and see if you can figure out. It's like, where's Waldo? Right? I leave Waldos in there for you to be able to have something to discuss. Now, again, some people may take everything that was good. That's good enough for them, sufficient enough, and I do that. Don't get it twisted. But what I'm saying is I do leave some things in there that I didn't put so that maybe those who have the acumen to go in there and discern and pull them nuggets out and then bring that up for the discussion. Again, this is Black Minds News with another Black Minds Report. And again, I want to thank each and every one of you for your participation. Remember, when you see one another, greet your brother. What's good, brother? When you see your sister, what's good, sister? Right? You can't do that much. At least just give each other the universal nod, right? Well, ain't nothing wrong with that, because we got to take all this jealousy, hate, envy, spite, all that shit about our ass and understand that we is all we got. Understand that the uniform of the team that you play on. And understand that there's people on our team that got allies. But that made them to ask them allies, hey, ask them allies. If shit get hot, you still gonna be on this team and on the frying pan when shit get hot? Ask them if they ever heard of John Brown. Is John Brown a real? That's a fictional story. Some shit y'all just told us to make us believe some shit. Huh? Understand that we on the time and darling that there's some but not all, and put that together to get some but all. Some but all are seeking for our demise. So it is very incumbent that we are vigilant, mindful, cautious, and high spirit. And this is Black Minds News, and I'm your host, Mr. Blow Your Mind, with another report. Until the next show, peace and love. Till the next show, y'all.